Okay, I think I'll just start with the introductions right now. So welcome to the 24-hour redesign competition for National Engineering Month. We're going to start with a land acknowledgement. The university acknowledges the lands and the people of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, which is covered under the Williams Treaties. We are situated on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas, a branch of the Greater Anishinaabe Nation, which includes Algonquin, Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi. Yeah, so these are your judges. If they'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Can you all hear me? Sorry, my internet
Yeah,
is a little
yeah.
unstable. Hello everybody. My name is Tarab. I am a fifth-year aerospace engineering student from Ryerson University. I've been really involved both internally and externally with the engineering community. I have previously been the activity manager and chair for the Canadian Engineering Leadership Conference, which happened this past January. I've won a couple of competitions similar to this in the past, so I'm really excited to see what you all come up with. I currently work for Ryerson's Faculty of Engineering and Architectural Science for engineering outreach. And yeah, I'm really excited to meet and interact with all of you today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Swatsky. I'm a fourth-year nuclear engineering student who's doing a minor in computational sciences, and I'm really engaged within the nuclear faculty, FES&S, here at UOIT, and the research component of that faculty. I'm an NSERC undergraduate student research award for the summer 2020 research term, where I developed a long-range radioisotope transport model for Caribou, which is a environmental impact code being developed by one of our professors, Dr. Kirk Atkinson. I'm really excited to see what you all bring forth today for this design competition, and best of luck to everybody.
And hello everyone, my name is Benedict, but I go by Ven. I use he, him, his, ill pronouns, and I am a 5th and final year mechanical engineering student at the University of British Columbia's Okanagan campus, though I am currently located on Treaty 6 territory here in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm the Vice President Services for the Canadian Federation of Engineering Students, so I oversee conferences like the one that Tarab managed earlier, the Canadian Engineering Leadership Conference, as well as all of our additional main activities and services offered through the CFES. In another life, though, I was a national finalist in extemporaneous debate at the Canadian Engineering Competition, and I currently work as a senior student ambassador for the University of British Columbia, as well as the Kelowna Online Programs Coordinator for UBC Gearing Up Engineering Outreach.
Thank you so much for all the judges for coming today and helping judge this competition. So here's our team lineup. If all the teams want to just like take a quick look at it, it should have been in your competitors package as well. But sorry. So we're just gonna go up to Keegan Park if they want to start presenting their screen and start their presentation. I will stop sharing. And the floor is all yours. Is Keegan here?
It looks like there may be some join issues with the link. I'm not sure why, but we even have a few team members who are using the password to try and get in right now. So that may be an issue for multiple people.
Okay.
They have to type in the meeting ID and the passcode manually because the link doesn't work.
That's really weird. Okay. Did you guys just register from the link that was inside the competitors package and all of those? I don't know, that's weird. It should work, but there isn't even a way I can get like a normal link for it though. I also haven't gotten an email from them. Is there a team that's like fully here so that we can start with that team and then I'll figure out the registration link. We have Yosahan. Are you here? Okay, I guess not either. Unila, you said your full team wasn't here yet. Is that
3 out of the 4 of us was able to get in. One more person's trying to get in with the meeting ID right now because the link's not working.
Oh, there we go. Dharma's here.
okay? Are you guys okay to go first then, or
I think that's fine. Yeah.
okay? I'm gonna figure out the issue with the rest of the people joining, but if you guys want to go ahead, you can go ahead right now and start presenting.
Rachel, are we going?
Yep. Can you share screen?
Yep. Everyone can see?
Yep, we can
guys are
see
good.
it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. We are team 3. Our team is Uni, Rachel, Dharma, and Derek.
So sorry. We chose to redesign the dry erase marker. The existing design is single use only. It dries out if it's not properly closed, and there aren't very many recycling options available to the public. And honestly, they're often thrown out early because of the ink fading that happens. Here we've included a slide that shows some of our motivation for wanting to redesign the dry erase marker. We have uncapped markers, boxes of uncapped markers that's just chaos, and we also have waste that happens when they aren't properly disposed of. These are some of the design considerations that we thought about while diving into our design. First and foremost, cleanliness. Our outside surface is non-aseptic to eliminate germs within shared environments like offices or schools. Sustainability was a huge factor for us. We've incorporated a refillable ink cartridge that can be refilled like a butane lighter, as well as all of our components are either recyclable or reusable. We're encouraging long-term reuse because the marker won't dry out. We maintained a thick tube to reduce hand cramping, and that overall increases usability across a variety of markets. At the end of life, our product can be recycled entirely, and its modular design prevents ink fading.
Here are a few of our concept sketches. We thought of different ways to make the marker self-retract when it is not being held. We tried different suction cups and wedges. Eventually, we came up with a design that uses a spring and wedge movement mechanism. Our marker consists of a needle refill spot at the top and a translucent ink tank so the user can see when ink is running low. Also, there's a rubber comfort grip that pushes down on the wedge when held. The wedge is coated in graphite for lubrication and a felt tip for smooth writing. There's a rubber gasket seal, which the tip will push past when used. It prevents the tip from drying out when closed. The marker extends when the user picks up the marker. When the grip is held, the wedge button will push inwards, which lowers the inner tube and pushes out the writing tip. When the user releases the marker, the spring will push the inner tube back up into the shell, and it also pushes the grip buttons outwards. This marker is easily refillable, similar to a butane lighter. When the marker is retracted, ink can be injected into the ink tank. Our tank holds up to 12.5 milliliters of ink.
These are some advantages and disadvantages that are about our current design. So advantages are that it never dries out, it's reusable, our design is modular and made of PLA plastic, it's long-lasting, bold, easy to use, and convenient. However, we do have some disadvantages. We have a slightly higher Msrp, which could mean that for some clientele, this isn't an ideal purchase. We also have some pretty complex parts with respect to our PLA plastics, and that will cause a longer manufacturing time.
And here is our final render of our CAD model. So as you can see here, this is the rendered model of when it is in use and when it's not in use. The top one is in rest, where no one's holding onto the grip, so it is actually retracted inwards. The bottom is if the grip is squeezed slightly, the felt tip will actually extrude outwards. And here's an exploded view. It's quite simple. It's in assembly actually. It's mainly consists of the outer shell. Then you insert the spring. Then you insert the ink cartridge with the felt tip. And then finally you use the rubber grip and you put it over the assembly. And here's a rendered cross-sectional view of our final product to see how the mechanism works a bit clearer. And this is the bill of materials, mainly consisting of the inner pen cartridge, the felt tip, the outer pen shell, the rubber grip buttons, and the spring.
There were a number of ethical and manufacturing considerations that we had throughout this process. First and foremost, the body of our markers, as we mentioned before, are made of PLA plastic. We chose that because the material is biodegradable and can be ethically sourced from things like cornstarch, tapioca, and sugarcane, and it can be properly recycled through partners like TerraCycle, which we'll mention later in our business breakdown. All of our plastic parts can be molded during manufacturing. The modular design does require assembly, and the rubber buttons and the sleeve will be manufactured separately. As far as safety goes, we've incorporated non-toxic ink into the design, and any small parts like the lid and the clip include holes to prevent choking. As far as marketing, we wanted to make this fun and accessible for lots of people. We do want to encourage long-term use of each unit, so we've provided a bunch of different colors for you to choose from. That being said, you can also put whatever color ink you'd like into each pen. So there's an endless number of combinations between ink and pen color. As far as our MSRP goes, our product, the main squeeze, we're hoping to sell for $6.67 per unit, and that's the initial pen, and then $10 ink refills. Based on our calculations, our refills will only be required about every 4 months, and that is on par with other refillable markers that are currently on the market today. Those markers cost around $17.29 for the initial unit, and then the ink refills are further $13.96. Whereas disposable markers that currently are on the market that are most widely used are approximately $2.33 each. You can see in our graph here, that's the cost versus the number of months in a year. After 1 month, the main squeeze marker is the best option. And then this is our business and sales plan. We want to start small and partner with local schools and universities and give them a few sets to try out first. Once we've done that, we'd like to branch out and license the product with companies like Crayola or Expo. And another really important part of this is to increase our sustainability by partnering with programs like TerraCycle that can help us commercially recycle the units. So we could run refurbishment programs such as trading in an old or damaged marker in exchange for credit towards a new purchase. Future plans for the product would be expanding to a wider range of colors and marker bodies, including colors of ink, developing new grip designs for alternative grips, and then developing new models with different dimensions for other markets like construction or job site use. These are some of our references. Are there any questions?
Heike, are we allowed to ask questions, or is that going to be something?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh,
If
okay, cool.
you guys are done, yeah.
So, Tara has her hand up first. Go for it.
No, go ahead, Ben. I can go after you. Don't worry.
All right. Great job. My first question is regarding the grip. Could you go to the 3D render if that's okay? Just of the No, sorry, it's the one with the cross section. Like cross section exploded.
Slide 13.
That one's fine. That one's fine. So yeah, perfect. That one. So I noticed here that in order to use the new design, you need to be holding it in a very specific way. It needs to be around the grip area. Have you thought about accessibility concerns with that? With respect to maybe someone isn't able to grab it in that specific way or isn't able to squeeze?
Definitely. That's something we really considered. And for this original design, we decided to follow the suggested ergonomic grip so that we could start it there, base it off that, and then later develop alternative grip styles. So we know that some people find it easier to hold towards the back of the marker. So maybe developing a different model where you can hold it there, or alter the way that it has to be pinched, because we know that that's sometimes hard for fine motor skills.
Okay. Perfect.
So I'll ask the next one. Yeah, so great presentation. I think it was like a really good plan. In terms of distributing like this product out and partnering with universities and schools, why do you think they would take your product over something that's like significantly cheaper?
Oh, I could answer that.
Sure.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Right now, like TAs and professors, they're often writing on boards all the time. And oftentimes when a professor comes in, the existing marker on the ledge might be out of ink. This would be a great opportunity here in our Msrp. The math shows that after 1 month of using our marker, it would actually be cheaper than if you constantly buy existing disposable markers over and over again.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Do you mind if I ask a follow-up to that?
Yes.
So, part of the issue with respect to reusable things and I guess just reusable things in nature is to mobilize people to continue to reuse them. So, for example, like per se, just think about like a reusable mug for like Timmy's or Starbucks. You have it, you remember that you have it, but sometimes you don't bring it with you because you don't. It's not the first thing you think of. So, have you thought about how you would design for, or like when you I guess manufacture, or when you advertise this product, how you'll keep that retention on continuing to reuse this? Because it wouldn't be the first thing that would come to my mind.
I can address this question. So that's a really good point, because getting people to continue using reusable products really, really difficult. One thing that we did discuss was implementing kind of a subscription service for ink refills. So if they're going to, let's say an institution like a school is going to invest in purchasing the main squeeze, then registering them in a refill service so that we can keep up with their needs, and so that we're sending them ink as they need it based on their expected use, so that they're then like, oh, okay, now we have to go and refill. Let's top everything up. Let's make sure everything's good to go.
Great, thank you.
Okay, last one. So could I just get all of the members like in the team to just let me know like what gear in engineering you're in, what engineering specifically you're in?
So just one at a time?
Yeah, just whenever. I don't really mind the order, just want to get like an understanding of like the group.
Okay. Hi, I'm Uni Lee. I'm in my last year of mechanical engineering here at Ontario Tech University.
I'm Dharma Solomon, and I'm also in the last year of mechanical engineering.
I'm Rachel Linz, and I'm also in my last year of mechanical engineering. And I think our team member, Derek, has been having some connection issues, been dropping in and out. But Derek,
third year.
Yeah, he's in his third year of mechanical engineering.
Awesome, thank you.
Do you mind if I just ask one last question?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Awesome. I was just curious on where you would see your product with respect to like high schools or elementary schools, because in elementary schools they go through a large number of disposable whiteboard markers, mostly because they tend to give them to all of their students. If you like think back to like early elementary school, at least in my like in my elementary school, we were given like little whiteboards that we were allowed to use. Um, how would you see your product fit in that scenario? Because the cost of purchasing a main squeeze for every student in class would be pretty prohibitive upfront for like an elementary school.
That's a good point. I think that anytime that we would have bulk orders, we'd absolutely be able to reduce the per unit price to kind of help accommodate that those limits. And we did factor into the idea of having the markers in shared spaces. So places like classrooms. So that's where we kind of wanted to implement the nanoseptic surfaces to help avoid germ transmission and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, is that all the questions from the judges? We do actually have 2 teams that did not show up nor submit. So it is just down to 4 teams, which I guess is better for the 4 teams that are here. So judges, if you feel free to ask as many questions as you want, since we are more lenient on time now. But do you guys, and does anyone else have any questions or? Okay, sounds good. I'm just gonna give the judges 5 minutes to kind of mark and go through the rubric and mark each the participants. And the next group will be, or the next person will be Nicholas. So if you want to, if the previous group wants to stop presenting and Nicholas can start and the judges can kind of go over it, and then I will tell you when you're ready to go, Nicholas.
Nice OEC
Sorry, hold on.
background
Let
you
me
got
just
there.
get everything figured out here. Where is the present button? Is that?
Just at the very bottom, just click share screen. It should be like green.
Oh, here we go. Thank you. Just this all. Hold on. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Heike, I am good to go if you needed confirmation if we're ready to go.
Okay. Do the other judges, are you all good to go?
I'm
Yeah,
good to go.
I'm good to go.
Okay, sounds good. Nicholas, then you can start.
All right. Great. So this is team 4. It's just me on the team, Nicholas Kwan. So let's get started to what I'm going to be redesigning then. So what I've set about to redesign is a multi-tool, or more specifically, the Leatherman OHT, which is actually a product that I own myself. Now, sort of as a baseline, the market that this is towards is for people that are doing a lot of outdoor sort of activity, first responders, military and law enforcement sort of applications, as well as just people that are doing a lot of hands-on work, and anyone else that might need any type of specialized equipment that this is standardized for. So I guess just starting off talking about what they did right. One of the things that I really liked about the design is the fact that they have removable cutters on the actual pliers themselves. And this means that if they ever get damaged, they need to be replaced for any reason, then they're easy to replace, very low hassle. The actual system of opening, which is what they're actually pretty proud of with this design, very simple and very low risk of failure. So you're not going to get any pinch points or anything like that with a lot of the common folding and takedown multi-tools. It's a very robust design. I've dropped this thing probably a million times, smashed it against trees and rocks, and a lot of people, at least in reviews, their reviews also say it's incredibly robust. And another thing about it, of course, it's a multi-tool, it's inherently versatile, but the tools, most of them at least, are built quite well. So moving on from that, what I wanted to look at was sort of more of a direct upgrade, sort of redesigning certain elements to just make it that much better of a product. And so the first thing that I decided was that the pliers are kind of lackluster, at least for my application. And in general, I think they can be better. So one of the main problems that I have with them is, as you can see here, they don't actually meet at a flush face. They actually meet at an angle. And one of the problems that I was having with that a lot was that when you go to grip certain things that are either really thin or small, you can't effectively use the full like face for actually gripping anything because it's got that gap there. Another problem that I was having was the fact that it doesn't have a stop or any type of stop at the end. I'll talk about that more in detail, why that's important, as well as why that's also pretty useful for some of the other features. You can't disassemble this thing beyond taking off the tools, as well as taking off the panels. And again, that's sort of a problem for me as well. Some tool revisions as well are things that I looked at, and potentially material changes, so upgrading the materials as well. So the first revision we have here, I decided on going with interlocking teeth and then a longer flush section for your actual pliers themselves, as we can see here in this image. The interlocking teeth essentially make it so that it's much easier to get a good grasp on things that are thinner, and giving it a longer flush section also means that you can effectively grab things that are long and flat without necessarily damaging them as much, things that are around the thinness of a piece of paper. So the second revision we have here is a rear hand stop. Now, this is mostly to prevent slipping when using things like your knife. And as you can see here, one of the largest problems that I have with it is that your grip basically goes straight from the grip right onto the knife blade. And based on the fact that this is marketed towards first responders, law enforcement, or anyone that's really doing any outdoors activity, you're going to have wet hands a lot. And that's sort of just a part of what you're doing. If you were to slip and your hand were to slip upwards while you're using the knife for any type of reason, it's a really bad thing and a really bad day for you. I've actually cut myself once like that. Fortunately, it wasn't bad. But the measure or the upgrade that I would have there is that there is a rear plate of folded metal on the back. And instead of folding it inwards, retooling the actual dies to fold them outwards instead. And that would give you an effective stopping point for your hand in order for it to not be cut by the blade. So third revision we have here is easily disassemble the entire thing nearly completely. And of course, the reason why we went for this was because it makes it a lot easier to clean the device, as well as replace any parts that might be broken on the inner workings. As someone who has used this outdoors quite a bit, it gets really gunked up, and unfortunately, there's no real effective way to clean this thing because you can't take it apart fully. So by making the parts easily replaceable, or easy disassembly at the very least, it means that I can go for a deep cleaning, or sanitization if you're in that field of work. Much easier, and if you need to replace any more crucial components, such as the actual mechanism, say it gets gunked up or broken, it would be much easier to do that as well. So in doing that, what I've decided on was the actual hand stop actually has a double purpose as well. By folding that sheet of metal outwards, it means that you can actually access the inner mechanisms that are inside the actual thing itself, the actual tool itself, without actually, it just makes it easier to assemble it that way. Because one of the problems that we have now is that you can't actually, even if you could unscrew everything, you just can't get it out the end. Another thing that we would have to change are the screws that are used. So there are 8 screws on the front face, as you can see in the 4 corners on either side. And one of the problems with them is that they don't use standard screw heads. I'm not sure what these ones are. I think they might be some type of hex, but they all have like a security bar in it that requires a special tool in order for you to actually take out, or at least one with a like a security feature in there. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there's actually a pin right down the center of the head. And that's a problem for disassembly as well. So in changing those to say a standard Torx or a hex head, make it a lot easier for disassembly. The 4th revision we have here is just changing some of the tools. One of the complaints in a lot of reviews, and it's actually kind of a known issue, is that the straight blade, the tip on it, is known to snap off. Now, this is a bit of a problem because when you want a tool, the last thing you want to have it do is break. So we'd be revising this to be more robust. At least it would have a less defined tip, which would mean it would be less effective for stabbing, but that's not necessarily what you need in a multi-tool. It would make it more durable as well. And one of the complaints that I personally had was the saw blade. Because of the way that they designed it, it's got a very sharp rear angle, as well as having 2 columns of teeth. I don't know if it shows up on camera, but there are 2 columns of teeth on it, which means that it really digs into wood when you're cutting it. But unfortunately, that's not necessarily a great thing when you've got such a small tool and such a small blade. So as we can see here, the blade design that I went with, we have a much more support on the actual straight knife. As we can see, we have much more support on the rear end, much, not steeper. We have a less steep angle on the actual front end as well. And this just gives it more support on the tip, means that it'll break out less often. And the actual saw blade itself, we decided to go with a much less steep angle on the rear end, which means that it's going to glide across wood a little bit easier and it won't get stuck as often. And the 5th revision we have here is changing the materials. So one of the very good things about this is the actual body itself is made of very high quality steel. However, your blades are made out of a very lesser quality 420 high carbon steel, which isn't necessarily what you want on a tool that is marketed towards people that are going to be saving lives. So at the very minimum, I think we should change that to D2 steel, or use the same steel that they're using for the body, which is 145 cm. And of course, this would increase the durability and usability, as well as reduce the amount of maintenance, as sharpening your tools, as well as maintaining and replacing the other tools, you would have to do that at far less frequency. So the cost estimates for retooling, because we're going to be using the same, pretty much most of the same parts for everything else, you're only going to be really looking at one thing to replace, and that would be the intersection here, and that's all one part. So you're only going to be looking at one new retooling die, and retooling dies cost anywhere from $75 to $2,000. So you are going to have to invest a little bit more in making a better product, but I think it's worth it there. And for the most part, since it's a small part, you're going to be bordering around the $200 range, most likely. The upgraded materials, I calculated it to be about $9 per gram. Now, this isn't necessarily the most accurate prediction of what the cost will be, mostly because I don't have a business. I can't necessarily get a quote for large quantities of material, but just due to economies of scale, it should be much cheaper than $9 per gram. Those are the sources. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. Are there any questions?
Well done. One question I do have is with respect to cost of manufacture. So you're making a lot of changes here, with potentially adding things, changing things, also changing steel and material. Have you considered the cost and what the impact to the cost of the multi-tool itself?
Well, the actual impact of the cost, of course, it will be increased, but it won't necessarily be increased that much because a lot of the components that I've actually using on the same thing, it'll pretty much be the same components. The only components that we're actually really changing, and if I go up to this model, you can see in this gray portion here, they're sort of what I would call the inner grips to the thing. Those are actually one of the only parts that we're changing, along with some of the tools. And because the pliers and the grippers themselves are already CNC steel, you're really not looking at that much of a change in terms of tooling, aside from that one part. And maybe if you were punching out the knife blades and the tools already, maybe you'd have to get another retooling die there. But overall, in terms of how many you're going to produce, you're not really looking at that much of an increase there in terms of investment for retooling and all of that. In terms of material, you are going to be looking at a higher cost. That's unavoidable, but honestly, for who you're marketing this tool towards, if you want a tool that works, I think that having, or like, as someone who's going to be using this tool a lot, I would personally invest in something that was even $100 more expensive than what this already was. And the price of this was around $200, right? So long as I know that every tool on this is going to work 100% of the time.
Great answer. I find it interesting that you're really confident in that, like in the success of the tool, like saying that it would work 100% of the time, this isn't criticism. It's nice that you're confident in your design. Are you planning, so say you get to move forward with this, is this a redesign for the company that currently produces tools, or are you looking at more of like an individual producer? Can you walk us through like some of the economics behind that?
Well, for starters, I did start with just sort of redesigning this for a specific company, which is Leatherman, and that's pretty much kind of where I started. For the most part, most multi-tools are designed in relatively the same manner. They have the same sort of form factor. And I think the changes can be, in a way, universal, mostly because I'm not necessarily adding anything I'm not adding like a new part to a multi-tool. I'm mostly just redesigning the parts that are already existing on them. So in terms of that, I guess it's not necessarily like I guess it is kind of a general change. Of course, because it was built specifically off of this platform, I guess that's where it would be most applicable. But I think the changes could be made to a wide variety of different multi-tools as well. Was there another part of that question
that answers my question. No, that answers my question. Thank you.
I also would like to note I did pick this company as well because all of their parts are designed or are manufactured and sourced in the United States. Would be better if it was Canada, but at the very least, everything that they produce is from North America, and all their materials are sourced from North America as well. So that was an ethical concern for me, is at the very least that it wasn't going to be outsourced to a third world nation or a developing nation, and it wasn't going to use child labor or anything like that.
Hi. I just had one question involving the repairability of your device. You focus pretty heavily on making this multi-tool more repairable. Have you considered making the rivets or the pivoting mechanisms replaceable to make it even more repairable in that manner?
The pivoting mechanism, if you could just specify where you mean by pivoting mechanisms, or?
I'm going to focus more on the pivot for like the pliers,
Mhm.
like the central pivot there. Have you considered making that like a replaceable component? That way, in the event that the multi-tool itself breaks, you wouldn't have to go out and buy a new one.
So looking into that, the multi-tool itself already uses a press fit bushing. Now, I don't really necessarily know any other way that you could make that more replaceable. I think that that would be certainly something that I could certainly look into further, and that's something that I should probably look into as well. What I will tell you is that I decided to keep it simply because it was just something that kind of worked. Bushing compared to say a bearing or something that's easy to take down because of the tighter tolerance that you're going to be looking at there. It means that there's going to be less gunk getting into it. And that's a concern that I had for myself, at least, because I use this outdoors a lot. Looking at, wet, muddy, mucky environments, the last thing you want to do is get a bearing with a lot of muck in it to really bind it up and, contaminate anything that you could be doing. So I think keeping with the bushing, at least for right now, was probably the right choice. In future, however, I think that's a great thing that you brought up that I probably should also look into ways that you can make that more replaceable.
Okay, thank you.
Two last questions, I should say. From me, first of which, do you happen to know like just what the cost on the market is for a tool like this?
A tool like this right now, you're looking at about, I think, $100 USD. I bought this one for closer to $200 Canadian from like, what was it? Cabela's or something like that. So that would be the price of a tool like this on the market right now. Of course, you can get much more expensive tools. You can get much cheaper tools. But at least for me, price point to usability, this tool was just sort of one of the better ones. So
Right. Okay, and then secondly, similar to Tarab's last question, just wanted to confirm your discipline and your year level.
first year mechanical engineering.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other final questions?
Okay, if those are all the questions, judges, you can start marking, and then when you're done marking, just raise your hand so I know that you're done.
Okay, I can stop sharing now.
Yeah, so you can stop sharing, and if I'm just trying to see who's next. Collins and Israel, if you want to start getting ready and share.
Heike, just to clarify, which two teams were the ones that weren't able to, or are not going to be participating?
Just team 1 and 2.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what happened, but I didn't get a submission and they're not here, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just delete those rubrics rather than giving them all zeros.
That's okay. Yeah, so the competition isn't gonna go as long as initially thought, so I'm kind of just like gonna say the timings. So yeah, so basically just ignore the competition schedule.
Just making sure everyone can hear me.
Yep, you're good.
All right.
And Collins, before you start, just so that we can avoid this question later, what's your year level and your discipline?
Oh, I'm first year mechanical,
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
and well, my teammate is also first year mechanical, if he's here.
Hey guys.
Hi.
Thank you. I was gonna ask that.
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna steal that question from you every chance I can.
Kevin, are you done, or did you see a little bit more time?
I'm done now. Sorry, I just can't seem to raise my hand through browser Zoom.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, that's okay. Yeah, so when you're done the next time, just say it and that'll be easier. Okay, Collins, you can start.
All right. Hello, we are Team 6, and this is our redesign of car suspension systems. My name is Colin Sahiman. And
I'm Israel.
For this redesign process, we divided up this presentation into 4 parts. First, we outline the existing technologies and their flaws in their systems. Next, we talk about our engineering design process, including our ethical and environmental impacts. Next, we talk about the solution that encompasses all of these needs. Then, we finally touch on our manufacturing and business models in the implementation process. Car suspension systems have evolved over the years, each with its own unique way of regulating the distance underneath the car and the ground. Car companies now use manual methods to operate the suspension system of the car. With the simple press of a button, the axles are lifted or lowered to avoid bumps on the road. So why did we choose this system to engineer? Over 53,000 of total car problems reported to the US Department of Transportation is because of a car suspension system. Another reason we chose to redesign the car suspension system is due to their inability to function in rough terrains. Given that they aren't off-road vehicles, but due to their low suspension, they're unable to climb curves, and their bumpers endlessly scrape any rock or bump on the ground. In order to create a proper redesign, we first defined what stakeholder needs need to be highlighted in our solution. Our primary needs are as follows: automated car suspension systems that accurately changes spring stiffness and driving height to avoid bumps and allow cars to be able to drive on the bumpy roads. We also need a suspension system which must also have a failsafe in the event of an emergency. Other secondary needs that are need to be highlighted are suspension systems which must be relatively easy to be manufactured and applied into currently existing car models. We also require our suspension system to be cost efficient. Now, having known these needs, we use an iterative design process starting with preliminary designs, then design refinement, then an analysis on its potential flaws, then optimizing our solutions to eliminate those flaws. Our first design was an airbag suspension, in which an air pump would regulate the pressure in an airbag in place of a spring. Quite similar to other modern air suspension systems, except this design has no spring whatsoever. So all the stress is put on the pressure, hence its cons. Our second preliminary design was using ferrofluids to regulate the stiffness of the spring, and the fluid itself will be controlled with infrared sensors that oncoming terrain for uneven ground. So the IR sensor would sense oncoming terrain, and if it's uneven, it would regulate the stiffness of the ferrofluids in the spring. Our last preliminary design is using a mechanical arm instead of a suspension system to move the level of the car up and down. We then created a design matrix to quantify our qualitative values and determined that our fluid spring was the best choice. Now, to go over our chosen solution, we decided to have our IR sensor that scans oncoming terrains, and after computing that data, it then sends electrical current to the ferrofluid, which changes its viscosity due to that current. And since that liquid is in the spring, that means that as the liquid gets more thick, the spring stiffness increases and vice versa. Here come our features of our solutions. The spring is made of a shell that contains our ferrofluid, as you see on the picture to the right. We then use electrical current coming from our IR sensor module to control the viscosity of the fluid. If you're not familiar to how ferrofluids work, They react to magnetic and electrical current. So as you see on the right, I'm sure you've seen them on social media at some point. Their viscosity changes as the magnetism and electric current around them changes too. So higher viscosities inside the spring would mean a stiffer spring, and lower viscosities would mean a more loose spring, which is what we want. The second feature would be an infrared sensor placed at the bottom of our car to estimate the elevations of oncoming terrain and bumps. So this sensor, as you can see on the pictures to the left, would basically be scanning the ground. If there's a bump, as you see on the pictures to the left, it would basically take in that data, and from that data, it would calculate how the elevation levels of that bump, and from then it would calculate how much the spring needs to be loosened in order for the car to have a smooth travel over that bump. And the way that the infrared sensor sort of signifies to the suspension system that it needs to become loose is that it sends an electrical current to that ferrofluid. So once it sends an electric current to that ferrofluid, if it's less than the current before, that means that the viscosity would lower. And since the viscosity is now lower, that means the spring would become loose. Just keep in mind that higher viscosity always means higher spring stiffness. Now for environmental impacts, the liquid in the spring predicted is to be constantly replaced because as the stress from the vibration of the car wears down on the spring, as you are familiar with magnets, the way magnets work is that the more you bang magnets against the wall, the less efficient it is. Same applies to ferrofluids. The more the ferrofluids is vibrated through the car, increases the potential of it losing its magnetism. So, and the reason why we also want to regulate the amount of time we have to replace the ferrofluids is because the production of magnets can be pretty toxic for the environment. So we only want to have it as one use without any replacements. And the most efficient way is to make the ferrofluid out of 5% magnetic solids, 10% surfactant, and 85% carrier to be potent enough to last for years without any replacements. We also considered our ethics and the safety of our implementation. For the ethics side, we want the driver to have a good sense of security. The reason why we made this project in the first place is to make the drivers know that their bumpers are not going to scrape the ground anymore. So we want them to have a good sense of security, and we also want them to be safe while doing so. So we developed a failsafe system in place for safety in case the sensors fail to detect an incoming bump somehow. And the failsafe electrical button is added to this design in case the driver wants to operate suspensions manually. So with the push of a button, the driver could increase or lower the height, and this would be the manual component as a failsafe. So this is our optimization phase. We optimize our IR sensor data to be more easily accessible to mechanics by adding a USB port. A lot of people like to mod their cars. So using a USB port, you can easily access that data to modify it if you need be. If you look on the print, if you look at the image to the right, I 3D printed the IR sensor module just to give you a sort of a visualization of how small it should be. And for the placement, we optimize it so that multiple infrared sensors will be placed around the car. One in the back bumper, one in the front bumper, one directly underneath the car to basically create a good visual graph of where all of the surrounding terrain is. In the top left, you can see sample data from the IR sensor. So it's basically saying the distance between the underneath the car and the terrain, and those are the distance values. We also optimize for the IR sensor to have a convex lens so it can carry more area and basically take an average of greater area as you see to the right. So our final design encompasses the ferrofluids inside of the springs. It also encompasses the IR sensor data. Then it also encompasses the IR sensor data placed at 3 different points of that car in order to encompass that whole visual terrain. So basically how this design works is that the infrared sensors are used to estimate the elevation of the terrain. Then the sensor takes in that data and computes how much electrical current is needed. Then the ferrofluid responds to that current and increases or decreases based on the needs. Then the infrared sensor also takes the data it took from the distance values to compute how high the driving height will increase or decrease in order to safely maneuver through that bumper terrain. Our manufacturing models, the bill of materials and technical drawings are in our appendix. Then for the actual how we're going to manufacture the hollow spring, it can be 3D printed if the company has the resources to do so. These are our costs based off of Alibaba. The references are in our bibliography. And now is our business model.
All right, hi guys. Like I said before, I'm a first-year mechanical engineering student at Ontario Tech, and I'll be going over the business model. Next slide. And so, the manufacturing and production. So the IR sensor is being developed in the US by a company known as Qualcomm, which is very notable and reliable, and they're worth the money. Then the springs will be developed by the SSSP Fittings Corporation, also based in the US. So it's going to be good since it's all North American based. And the fur fluids, which is one of the important component that makes this design so unique and flawless, is developed by Foretics. Then if we go over to the next slide, the distribution, it's intended for sport cars. That's our target audience, but it's not limited to them alone. It can work for any car just perfectly. That's another good thing about this design. Many suspensions are just required for specific types of cars, especially with different weights, but this works with most cars. Next slide. It's cheaper to produce the ferro fluids in-house, but we offer different methods. So they could go to third-party sellers and get the ferro fluids from them, or we can still work with that. And the next slide, which is a timeline, shows how long it's going to take. It's a Gantt chart, and it will take around 3 weeks to implement this design from start where we analyze the company and see the kind of cars we're dealing with, to the production of the fur fluids, then making of the hardware components and designing a prototype, to the programming department that would make all the suspension gear system works with all the codes, which is the brain of the whole system, to testing, assembly inspection, registration, and finally large-scale production of the cars. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Yep. And just so you know, these are our references, and we do have 3D drawings. The reason why we didn't include 3D drawings for the actual front axle of the car is because that's dependent on the model we're working with. The only hard dimensions we can give are towards our IR sensor modules, because regardless of the car model we make, it's always going to be the same size. But yes, questions?
Great job. So my first question actually relates to that last point there. You talked about how it can be used on different models and how the installation is very dependent on the model.
Right.
Have you considered that that installation, or what installation would require, and the cost of installation of the infrared sensor?
Yes. So as we talked about here, these are the costs of the PCB materials and such. So once you have accumulated all the costs, then in terms of only installation, you would really just have to find a free space in the car to stick it to, because once you have the PCB ready, it's a pretty basic IR. It's almost like the same you would find in our Arduino set. So once you have that PCB ready, all it takes for installation just to hook it up to the car in terms of just nailing it to a car, screwing it to the side of a car, then just the wiring towards the suspension system. So
Yes.
it's really cost efficient in that we don't require any complex mechanism for it to work. It's just wiring towards the module.
And yes, just like he said, we actually developed a tiny prototype. It's an Arduino prototype, and I do have it right beside me on my camera if you do want to see. But it's a prototype. It doesn't fully work yet because I don't have everything set up, but I can show you the whole
Yeah,
component system,
yeah,
and the whole network if you'd like to see.
Try to develop it. And
Yeah, I'd love to
Arduino.
see it if you could show it to us.
Yeah. Due to like unforeseen circumstances, because like we just got to start working on this yesterday, we couldn't get all the Arduino modules because we had to buy like extra modules. So we didn't have all the components, but we can show you what we have so far though.
Yeah, no, let's do that. Let's see.
All right. Could you see my camera?
Yep.
I'm trying to see my view too. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so right here is the Arduino Mega. It's the A2T Mega chip. I'm not sure about that, but then it's just cardboard. And right here we have the H2 SRO5 range sensor finder, which is basically acting like the what's it called? Like the
The
IR
IR sensor.
sensor.
The IR
And
sensor.
the servos here are actually just to imitate the actual fluid viscosity
Exactly.
changing. And so these servos just are offset with some tires. They just raise it around like 90 degrees and raise the front up and raise the back down. So that's about where we're at with this, but it's still a work in progress. Yeah.
Do you have any questions on how the final solution works? Like in terms of operation or anything like that?
Yes, my first question was actually geared more towards, so I know you mentioned at some point, I don't remember exactly which slide it was, that your solution was focused currently more like towards like sports cars. Is that right?
Yes.
So how much like work do you see being put into a project like this so that it's able to be like manipulated and adjusted to kind of fit all cars, electrical, non-electrical, like even trucks, buses, like all that kind of stuff?
So when we said that it's made for sports cars, we meant it like it wasn't our business model, and we use the word target audience.
Mhm.
So our audience is cars in general, but the most likely people or car manufacturers to buy this product are sports cars. This is applicable to any sort of cars. You don't need any change of installation or whatsoever. We just said that the cars that are most likely to want this are sports cars just because they have the most instances of them scraping the bumps as seen here.
Yeah.
But it's applicable to all cars. We're just saying the target audience is sports cars. But there's no, regardless of the make of the car, the installation it's the same. It's the same installation.
Yeah. And do you believe, and this is for the both of you, do you believe that this would have a positive, or how much of a positive impact in terms of safety do you think your product will have on like the current like road vehicle industry?
Right. A general rule of thumb in the road industry is safety. One of the, as highlighted in like the statistic we said before, over 53,000 between 2001 to 2022 are related to car suspension problems, and these range from simple bumps like so to full car crashes that can end in loss of lives. So regardless of the car make or system or timeline, the safety is going to be significantly increased because suspension doesn't just help with scraping the ground. Suspension also helps with turning. Suspension also helps with braking. Suspension also helps with the maneuver, like the change of weights, the load on your car. So apart from the outlined safety issues in this presentation, there are more factors that can be greatly enhanced by installing this in a car in terms of safety.
Awesome. Thank you. Great job. This was a really good presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Or
You were talking about road safety. I just had a question regarding that.
Right.
So your new design introduces quite a few points of failure into an already reasonably robust system.
Right.
So you now have the microcontroller. You now have the system that you're using to magnetize the ferrofluid.
Right.
I'm just wondering how you would address those points of failure from a safety standpoint.
So we outlined this already right here. So because the main part of our system is automated, we want to give the drivers a good sense of security, and we want, as far as the ethics side, we also want to make sure it's actually safe. So one of the basic safety needs when it comes to anything automation is that human instincts generally have better prediction than automation. So that's why we included that failsafe, which is an electrical button that's added to basically, if the sensor just fails to detect any big oncoming bumps, that button, you could just press the button to lower or raise the suspension if you just want to take charge of that moment right then and there. So in the case the worst happened and our sensor fails, we have that failsafe in as part of our installation to always make sure that you would go over the bump smoothly.
Okay. I also did have a question regarding how you're planning on magnetizing the ferrofluid itself,
Right.
because ferrofluids, I've worked with them for some of the work that I've done, only have a noticeable change in viscosity due to their change in density when a magnetic field on the order of several millitesla is applied to them. That is a substantial magnetic field, more than what you'd normally find in an electric motor. How are you planning on delivering that magnetic field to the ferrofluid for your device?
Are you familiar? You probably are. So the IR module sends an electrical current. From that current, we make an electrical field. It's just the size. The thing that really makes it sufficient is that the coil is already going in the direction of the spring, so it makes that coil, right? And since the electric current is going in the form of a coil, it generates a magnetic field that influences that ferrofluid.
Okay, thank you.
So I said it follows the suspension spring, and since it's going in that coil, it generates the magnetic fluid necessary, and the IR just moderates that current to make the right magnetic field to have the correct viscosity to make the spring stiffer or loose.
Okay. Would you say that a second stage in your design process would be to perform electric E&M simulations on this spring to see if you'd get the magnetization you require?
Yes, I would actually love to. I was actually even planning on doing it right now, but I just feel I didn't want to bombard you with too much information. Yes,
okay.
I wanted to, basically what I wanted to do is perform a stress analysis on the spring. So if I sort of use an equation from the magnetism and sort of like estimated the force or the pressure that would that the liquid would generate on the spring, you could just use CAD simulations to sort of estimate how stiff it would be and sort of predict which K value that spring would have per current. And all that calculation will be done using the IR sensor module. But yes, that would actually be a wonderful simulation to take if you have.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I guess not.
Yeah, so we're just going to give the judges their time to score you, and you can stop presenting, and the next group is Mobisher if you want to present.
Thank you for having
afterwards.
us.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
You guys see my screen?
Yep.
I'm done scoring now.
Me too.
Okay, sounds good. I think everyone's done, so you can start.
Hello, everybody. Today I will be talking about iCarts. Obviously, when you hear iCarts, first thing would come to your mind would be basically electric cart. To be more specific, electric shopping cart. The goal of my redesign here is to make you think of a cart in a different way, hopefully after this presentation. And I want to implement the basically more technology to carts, as I didn't see many people talk about this. This is basically the original design that we all know and we see. The flaws are that there is many theft happening for like over 2 million carts every year. And basically it's like a boring design, honestly. I did the redesign basically because of the theft problem that's happening every year, as I mentioned before earlier today, and because it doesn't keep pace with our current era anymore. The concept I came up with, basically, I was thinking about cards, and I saw I saw a hoverboard, and then I thought, why shouldn't I like combine them together and get something unique? This is a handwritten sketch. It's not the best, however, it does the deal. Yeah, as I told you, concept generation. I came up with it by. I noticed also actually there is many people, including me, ask for to find products in stores, and so I thought I started developing a device or something to uh, find a solution for that. So maybe we can reduce labor costs, and yeah, so then I started developing the idea, and after I developed an idea, I started implementing more technology and innovation to it. Uh, the plan for manufacturing is basically, since it doesn't contain that many parts, uh, of course, it depends on who's the designer. The way I designed it, didn't include that many of parts, as I will show you in the pictures. Uh, the technology I added for the car was first a mounted iPad, sorry, and this iPad has many functions basically. It controls all the movements, so basically it's going to be electric, so it will control all the movements. Uh, Also, using the iPad, you can find any product you want. If you're looking like in which aisle you want, it will just direct you there. Also by voice commands. Uh, yeah. Also, actually, for people with disabilities, I implemented voice commands option. Also for any nutrition facts, and if there is any emergency in the store, there's specific sensors. Maybe will sense like high sounds, and it will call SOS immediately. Another thing, as you can see here to the right, it's a wireless charging for our phones. Who doesn't carry a phone right now? Huh? One more thing, also there's a lift mechanism for heavy stuff. For example, let's say an old guy is shopping, maybe he can't lift something, so he can use this to take it to the cashier. As you can see, it uses a hydraulic mechanism. It will just raise this part to the cashier, and then they can move it. My project impact positively more than negatively, as to help like business clients to find product nutrition facts using the iPad, and within the supermarket as well, decrease cases of card theft, as we talked before, and decrease labor costs by reducing human interactions. Now, on the negative side, you will see that there's also less human interactions. I wrote this in both positive and negative because some people basically count it as positive. They want more, they want less human interaction, and some people want more. Depends on each person. Uh, it also impacted negatively on increasing diabetes cases because people are not going to be using walking basically anymore. You'll see in the pictures. In manufacturing, here are my bill of materials. As you can see, I'll pause here for 2 seconds so you can take a look. Here is my design. As you can see, this is iCard. I will just describe it briefly here, and you will see in the picture later. So a person basically will be standing right here, and this is the iPad. It's uphill, of course. And as you can see, this is basically glass here, and from the other side as well. And this is the mechanism we talked about. Here as well, there's wheels. It of course rotates, and it will be controlled by the iPad mounted in. Here's a quick animation of the lift mechanism. Here a second time. And here appendixes, as you can see, it's in store using Photoshop. Thank you for your time. If you have any question, please go ahead.
Great job.
Thanks.
So first thing, and I think you might have addressed this, but I might have missed it. If they are standing on the cart, that means that the degree of mobility is a little bit restricted. That means you're kind of going straight. How do they turn? Do they get off the cart and turn it, or is it like is it automated on the iPad?
It is automated through the iPad, but however, there will be, of course, a control system. A designer will need to design the control system, and then using software, of course, also will be implemented through the iPad.
Okay. So then my next question here is with respect to just a design for safety consideration. Obviously, everyone weighs different amounts of pounds, and the amount of stuff that would be in the cart also weighs quite a different amount. And from the views that you've shown us, the wheels look like they're kind of small. Have you considered the design for safety there?
The wheels are designed to basically handle weight as they are balancing the whole cart. So if you give me 1 second so I can go back. For example, this is a front view. As you can see, the wheels are balancing the whole car. So it's not it's not in a wrong situation here. It's not gonna flip backward or forward. You know what I mean?
Right. My question is more so, say for example, this cart is empty, right? Let's say this cart is empty and you've got someone who weighs, I don't know, 250 pounds on the back side. That's going to cause a moment, right? It's going to cause a moment about the back set of wheels. So have you thought about like a necessary weight for this cart, or is there anything that you consider with respect to the manufacturer of the cart that will allow that weight to balance out?
Yes, there is actually the weight of the battery, which is gonna be planted right here, and also the mechanism would be a bit heavy. Regarding your concern, the wheels, there are 4 wheels basically, so I mean they would be able to handle heavy weight. They're made for that.
Okay, thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yep. Thank you.
Sorry. I am having some like internet issues, so I apologize like if you already mentioned this. 2 things. One, could you let me know what engineering discipline and what year you're in? And then second, if you had mentioned like a maximum weight for the trolley itself, like person and groceries like combined.
I'm in mechatronics engineering, second year. Regarding your second question, I did not specify that in my presentation, just because I still don't know how much the weight of the battery will still be, and we don't know how much products, basically the client want to buy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome, thank you.
The
Actually,
questions I had were answered already. Oh, sorry about that.
Go ahead.
But I was just going to say that the questions I had, you already answered from the previous two judges.
Did you mention how much each individual trolley would cost?
No, I did not.
Okay, no worries. Do you have any estimates for that?
Yes, I do actually. So a regular cost for a regular car that would be around 75 till 150, as I read from Wikipedia. But however, I didn't include it in my presentation. So for a similar car to be around 600 to 750 dollars.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. If that's all, is that all the questions? Good to go. Okay. Moshe, you can stop presenting, and the judges will now be. I believe that was the last person. Yep. The judges will now deliberate. I'm going to put them in a breakout room, so everyone else will stay here, and all the judges will be going to a breakout room to deliberate, and then we will meet you guys back here in like 10 to 15 minutes. So yeah, just sit tight, grab a snack if you want. But yeah. I'll just put everyone in a breakout room. Do you guys see the room or? Yeah, okay, cool. I will also be moving there, so you guys can just sit tight. And we will be back in a bit.
Hey guys, good job everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
I really liked everybody's design and stuff, so good job everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I was first year, I never competed in stuff like this, so yeah.
Same.
And like it's really good that you guys are getting this experience now because in my first year, I didn't have any and I really regretted that. So
This is good for your resume when you apply for co-ops and internships second year forward.
well, not even just resume stuff, but it's just a fun experience because like let's be real, like you guys all had fun, right?
Kind of.
I mean, aside from the occasional crying and trying to make it work and then your CAD just doesn't work, that's
Hey,
engineering.
Yes, please.
Nicholas, I have a question.
Pardon?
Nicholas, is that the MP600?
No, Leatherman OHT.
Leatherman? That's the. Is
Yeah,
that
it's a
the one
Leatherman. I was like, I have a Gerber.
Is
Gerber. Ew, Gerber.
Gerber-
Yeah, what do you mean? Ew, Gerber's
I have the-
awesome.
Gerber, okay, no, admittedly, Gerber is actually pretty awesome. I'd honestly own one. I honestly just got this because it was cheaper. It was on sale. But yeah, it's the Leatherman OHT. That's the one I have. Amount of times this thing has freaking cut me because there's no hand stop on it. Ugh.
Nicholas, question for you.
Yes.
Gerber Dime or the Leatherman Squirt?
Oh boy, you said Gerber. Which one was that? Gerber Dime?
It's the keychain size one, like the size of your pinky.
Oh. Interesting. Or the which one? Leatherman Leatherman what?
Squirt.
Leatherman Squirt. Let's see. I mean, in general, Leatherman and Gerber. I mean, really, neither of those two really going anywhere. Okay. No, go with the Gerber.
Hell yeah. The one on my car keys is a Gerber.
Yeah. I'm looking at whatever this Leatherman squirt is thing. I don't like it. Go with the dime.
Yeah, Gerbers are always nicer, in my opinion. Based off of using Leathermans for scouts and Gerber for work, a Gerber is a lot handier than a Leatherman, in my opinion.
I mean, I think part of it, like, see, because it's like I don't necessarily have any complaints about my my Leatherman, mostly because most of the time I'm using either the saw blade or I'm using the thing as a hammer. So, I mean, in terms of tool use, like, I mean, a lot of the tools here aren't necessarily built for civilian usage in general, just because all their parts are really standardized towards law enforcement and like first responders. So in general, I would honestly, like, I think when I get another multi-tool to replace this one, because this one's kind of getting beat up, it's probably going to be a Gerber.
Are you really into like everyday carry stuff, like collecting different types of multi-tools?
I have one multi-tool. I don't have a knife yet. I mean, everyday carry, yeah, I'm kind of into that sort of thing. I guess I kind of have something like that. I carry a flashlight and if I can, a multi-tool. That's pretty much it in terms of like specialty items aside from like phone and stuff.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Oh, I collect a lot of multi-tools. So
Nice.
I like when it comes to Gerber, I have like the Gerber Paraframe, the Gerber Dime, the Gerber Ultimate, the Gerber Folding Blade, the Gerber Scout, all of them.
Jeez. All right. Well, I know who to ask when I'm looking in the market for another Gerber or multi-tool or something.
Derek and I, we actually both went to Scouts together like over 10 years ago.
Unmuted now, yeah.
Yo,
Nice.
You're a girl in engineering. You have to be prepared.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm also with my housemate. Sorry about that, but yeah.
Nice, but yeah.
Oh, fun fact too. If you want, you can go on to I forgot which one it's called, but there's a government liquidation site that you can actually buy at the airport when they stop you at security because you have a multi-tool on you and they take it.
Really? You can actually buy those multi-tools?
Yes, you can buy them in bulk, and that's what I've done one summer, and I sold them all back out at a higher price.
No, seriously?
Yes, but you can keep the nice ones, and they go for about $200 for a box of like 20 or 30 of them.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
bro, you gotta link that, man.
Yeah, I'll try to find you. It's really you gotta keep checking always because they only have like one box every like 2-3 weeks that come out every so often because nobody's traveling now, right? So
I mean, once it picks up, like
scissors and knives to the airport. I've lost so many. Like when I went to Hong Kong in 5th grade, I forgot I had one multi-tool and 2 pairs of scissors in my bag. Yes, I was in 5th grade. So I remembered one, so I pulled out one pair of scissors, threw it into the box, and then I was like, oh snap, I have another multi-tool. So then I threw that into the box and I was like, okay, I'm good. I sent my backpack through the scanner and the guy's like, you have a pair of scissors. I'm like, what do you mean? I have 2 pairs of scissors? I'm like, yep, I guess I do.
In your carry-on?
Yeah, it was an accident.
What were you doing? Why do you need so many tools?
It was my first major airplane flight when I was younger. Cause like of course I've been to the US, I've been to like shorter flights, but that was my first flight to Hong Kong, like a 16-hour big flight. And I just straight up forgot all the scissors in my bag. Scissors and multi-tools in my bag.
Fair enough. Whenever I go traveling, I have like a specific travel bag that nothing that's against airport regulation is in there ever. So that's generally how I avoid losing my fun toys at the airport. So.
After losing a multi-tool and 2 pairs of good scissors, I learned to always check my bag before going through.
Pretty much. So.
Is anybody here from Oshawa, like living in Oshawa right now?
I'm in Oshawa.
Yes, I know, Derek.
Well, I'm kind of close to Oshawa. I'm about a 30-minute drive.
Oh,
from Markham.
I'm also Markham.
Markham.
I'm in Oshawa.
Oh, Markham gang.
Which high school?
Markham. Pardon?
Which high school you go to?
Baroque.
Oh, of course it's boss. Just the boss.
I went to Pierre Elliott Trudeau.
Pet. Nice. All right.
Pet.
I know some people from there. You probably don't know them, but I know like one person from there. Yeah. I actually don't really know a lot of people from my generation from Boss that actually came here. Although I think some of them are taking like a break because of COVID or like a gap year because of COVID. But
If COVID wasn't a thing, would you be living at residence?
yes, I
Yes,
probably would.
I did that too. Like,
I'm
I'm
yeah,
from
most
Marshall.
of my parents are kind of like, yeah, you should go
Move out.
now.
Yeah, that's my parents too. They were like, yeah, we know you're like 35 minutes away from school, but go live out, go meet people, go like do your own laundry. And I'm like, okay.
For the opposite.
Yeah, same. Well, actually, my parents were in the middle.
Yeah, but nope, stuck at home now because of COVID. So don't do any fun things on campus. Not that you would have been really been able to do anyways.
Orientation.
Pardon?
No orientation. That's the biggest miss out.
That's true. Although there was the weird online orientation thing that
Orientation next year is going to be lit. I'm helping run at least the NSOC part of it.
Oh.
So.
Which is the Engineering Student Society.
Fair enough.
And they do a whole bunch of these events, and they're pretty cool, I guess.
Oh, you know what? That'd be a good question to ask someone who didn't get a first year. How would you guys feel? There's a Boy Scouts like camp about a 5-minute walk from where
A Scouts camp, not a Boy Scouts. There's no boy in front of Scouts. It's just Scouts. Anyways, continue.
So
We're in
there's this Boy
2021.
Scouts thing really close by. And they rent out the park a couple of days. Like if you want, you can rent it out. We were thinking of doing like a bonfire with a mix of some like fun exercises, like, you know, wilderness style.
I want to come.
Bonding exercises with other people.
Can we do pioneering?
I mean,
and navs?
See, well, I would find that fun. Do keep in mind that the city folk might not take too kindly to being dropped out. It's kind of, you know, in the great outdoors.
You're in Markham. It's a city. You are a city folk.
Well, yes, but also, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I'm a different kind of city folk.
Honestly, it won't be overnight, so it'll get rid of those people that are like, oh, I don't want to sleep in a tent. Because
I mean, it'll get rid of those people, but
so that way it's
I mean,
more outdoorsy, a little bit more fun. It depends on if COVID will allow us, but it's outdoors, so COVID protocols will be a little bit more lax.
You're very bold to assume that Scouts Canada is gonna rent out their park to a bunch of right
Also,
to a bunch of
Natalie,
university students.
Natalie, you're not allowed to smoke, do drugs, or drink alcohol on Scout property.
I'm not allowed to smoke, drink, or do drugs as part of NSOC.
Okay.
Right, but the participants going.
But the participants all want to smoke,
And
do
cannot
drugs, and drink
smoke.
alcohol.
Yeah,
That's
because it's a
fine.
Scouts Canada thing.
That's fine.
and
They
they're
can
city
walk out.
folk. So, yeah, but that would sound pretty fun. I mean, I'd go to that orientation.
Oh yeah, especially like once people start moving back to Oshawa and campus residents, there'll be more people to actually do stuff.
Mhm.
And then you get to meet us,
That would be
the
interesting.
cool upper years, quote unquote.
Are you guys fourth years or third years?
Third.
Third?
Eric's in third year, I'm in fourth year.
Oh, so are
Same,
you
fourth year.
graduating this year or are you taking another year?
I am graduating.
Oh, okay. That's fun.
I'm graduating in a month.
Oh,
Oop.
that's neat.
Rachel
Oh
did
shit,
her
that means
ring
final exams are in a month.
Yep.
Oh no.
Yeah, you didn't
Okay,
join us.
remember our school's motto is fail forward. If you fail, you might still move forward. It's okay. It's the school's motto.
I would prefer not to fail though.
Are you doing a full course load in first year?
Pardon? I don't know what that means. I have
Are you
6
doing
courses
all
right
6
now.
courses right now?
Yes.
Good for you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, good for
It
you.
gets harder. It's gonna get a lot harder.
Remember, so now that you've picked up the pace, now the content's gonna get really hard at that same pace. And then second year, second semester, it's gonna pick up the pace even more. So just keep that in mind.
I mean, I don't know. I figure once we like, I find that whenever we start specializing in what we're kind of learning, I find that I learn better, mostly because I'm more interested in it. I just right now it's a lot of like, you know, more sort of open. So learning is a little bit harder for me right now, but once we start specializing.
Impact of science is one of the impact of science, and like, what was that other one we did, Nick? Like communication.
Oh, it was the weird ethics course or something like that.
To this day, like I still don't understand what went down. I just read from the text.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
The reason why TechCom is a course, because you'd be surprised there's a lot of students who aren't very good at like grammar, writing, and stuff like that, especially when you get into
in general.
Older ages like capstone or CAD or concurrent engineering. When you're writing like 50-page reports with your teammates, you better hope your teammates are good at writing, or else you'll be proofreading for ages.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I just suck at essays in general though.
I hope you paid attention to linear algebra last semester, because you're gonna need it.
Linear algebra comes clutch, and calc too.
Yep.
I did hear a lot about linear algebra being used in a lot of joint calculation, actually.
Boring,
calculation
but pay attention.
Wait, also learn MATLAB. You use it a lot later on.
Oh yeah, MATLAB is your best friend. Okay.
Yes.
You want girlfriend or MATLAB? You're picking MATLAB.
Yeah, right now we're learning
MATLAB. Very important from my fourth year friend.
Yeah, right now we're doing Calc 2, and it's about the finding the rates of change at the like 3D graph. It's just messed up. It's crazy to me. But it just went real quick.
Too. I am.
How are the polar coordinates? Oh, my favorite too. I love that one. It's fun.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Whatever happened to like just common vector addition, bro? That was the life.
Yeah, so it's fun. This isn't the first CAD competition that Collins or I have done, though. This is third one.
This is my sixth one. Actually, my seventh.
Holy crap, you've done 6?
No, this is my seventh one. Yeah.
Seventh one, like this year or in general?
Seventh one for this school year.
For what the
Jeez.
hell? Bro,
wait,
chill.
You guys did the design-a-thon then, right?
Ow.
I went to basically every design-a-thon. Yeah.
Well, all right then.
Good for you.
I only remember doing the 2 with you, and then I did.
Oh yeah, we did national and.
Yes, we did national, and then Ontario OEC.
Oh, OEC. Yeah, we did OEC.
Because we did OEC. What did we do again? It was the national design-a-thon.
We did the internal, then we did OEC.
Yeah, because it was. I mean, if you count, I counted that as 1. I guess that's technically 4 then now, because there's OEC, the internal engineering competition that we did. The first one that we ended up doing. When did we do that one? That was like fall.
Oh, the national design-a-thon? Yeah, that was like September.
Yeah, that was like September. That was an interesting experience. What did we come in that one? Third, right?
We came third, yeah.
Yeah, third in that one, not bad. And then now we're here. Yay. So
yeah, I'm like, the only reason I'm doing this mostly for like, because it's fun, and also for like resume stuff. But like after the second year, when I already have a co-op, then there's no use, because like the co-op is gonna outweigh any other competition I do in terms of experience, right?
You're actually very correct on that. No, it doesn't. Not always.
Really?
Based off of the 2 interviews that I had, one with GM and one was with a Trenton Cold Storage, they both talked about my projects that I had talked about instead of my other work experience. Like they talked about projects first and then moved it back to work experience, which is prior than my work experience was before my projects in my resume. Yeah. And they went to talk about projects first.
They want to know what you're passionate about.
Exactly. They want to know what you're also like passionate about, which is really key.
Oh.
So yes and no. Like competitions do matter.
I guess I'll see schedule.
Competitions are an easy way for them to evaluate the skills that you've gained and how well you can put stuff into practice.
Oh. All right then. Oh, I need to get some more applicable hobby projects.
I need to get.
There's lots of time.
Yeah. I mean, like, I have plenty of hobby projects. Probably shouldn't put any of them on a resume though.
Most of my, oh yeah.
Yep. That's
It
I mean,
might
unless
not-
I'm applying for
a
like
very specific company.
yeah, something like that. So yeah.
Most of my projects are actually just like not competition, but projects. They're mostly just like CAD based.
No, I mean,
That's-
actually, you know what? Once casual engineering club kicks up, we should actually be
Yeah.
pretty good on that front, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
If we
have
get
to wait
like
for
enough
COVID.
funding, but
I mean, like the funding's not that bad. Technically, we have enough members to be an official club now, so that's what, $500. Here's $500. Have fun.
nice.
So design cheaply, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna do any big break games like
Really
off the
shouldn't be.
top.
No, most of the parts that most of the things that we're gonna be doing are gonna be like not
Easy
super duper
tools.
big.
Like
Yeah.
tools.
Oh, actually, I don't even think we're necessarily gonna need to. Also, a lot of the stuff, or at least a lot of the projects that I have written down are sort of 3D printing projects type thing.
Oh, I see.
I mean, like we do have some projects that might require some tooling if we want to add those, but because we got Khalil, and Khalil does all of his fancy schmancy hexbot walker things. What other project? Oh, and then the compliant mechanisms or something like that too. That's a fun project study.
You guys know about the design studio in Msrp?
What?
So
No.
if you're starting a club and you need access to like 3D printers or different types of equipment, there's the design studio in Msrp that has all of that, and
Oh, yes,
students
I've-
can use it for free.
I've heard about the 3D printers. I knew about those ones because wasn't it like part of your tuition covers some of the printing hours or something for that too?
Probably.
Yeah, something like that. But the one thing that I did want to try and get access to, which unfortunately means I have to go talking to people, which is the machine shop.
Oh, and ACE.
I can talk about that.
Oh, fun.
So the ACE, the machine shop, we have one. It is in the ACE building, which is attached to the Eng building.
Mhm.
You are not allowed to use the actual machine yourselves because the machines are only used for insured ACE employees. So unless you work
Oh.
there as a student co-op or you're full-time staff, you can't touch the machines. However, you can fill out a form online and say, like, hello, I want this project to be done. You send them your CAD drawings, they will quote you for how much it would cost. And because you're a student, it would be significantly cheaper than if you're going in as a company. And you can get scheduled to get your parts made.
Oh, so that's how I see. Okay. That's unfortunate. I mean, it
You-
works fine, but
Hey, ACE is always hiring, well, not always, but ACE often hires co-op students for
Yeah.
the summer and during the
Oh.
year. But unfortunately, because of COVID, we are not hiring right now.
Yeah,
But back before COVID, they would hire about like a little around like what, 8 people to work at ACE.
yeah. So get a job at ACE. That is what I'm hearing. Got it.
Yes, do it.
What was that about getting jobs?
Oh,
Would really love some tips.
Okay. So the judges have decided we do have the winners, but they're gonna go over and kind of give you guys some constructive criticism and feedback on each of your designs. So yes, Ben, you want to go ahead?
Sure. So I'll just go over first, just a general overarching, how did it go? Well done, all of you. Given your year levels and your disciplines and what you've come up with, it was remarkable, to be completely honest. All of the designs were fascinating and interesting and really, really well thought out. I would say with respect to this specific competition, we looked at everything, first of all. But secondly, and kind of importantly, we looked at specifically with the solution that this is a pitch to a company. That was the way that it was posed to you. And in order for this to be pitched and approved, you need to think about feasibility and you need to think about design clarity. And those were the two really, really big factors and aspects of the decision that we made. It's really, really important to consider, can this actually be made with a reasonable amount of resources and time? And is the market big enough to warrant the change that we're trying to make? And in all of your cases, it was yes, but I think in the winner's case, it was just a little bit clearer than what a little bit clearer than the rest, I should say. In any case, you all did really, 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 really well. There's one other piece I wanted to say too. Yes. So when we were initially going through our rubrics, we realized it was so close that specifically on my rubric, I had a tie for first place. So that's since been resolved, but I want you all to know you did a wonderful job, and it was great to see. With that, I guess I'll pass it off to Tarab to give specific feedback to Team 3.
Yeah, so like I just want to echo like what Ben just said, like excellent job from all of the teams. I think about like all the work that you've put in, especially in like the time period, and it's really great, like all of the stuff that you've come up with. For each of the teams, obviously, you know, we considered the technical feasibility, the innovation. Some of the teams, I love that idea. I wish I had thought of it. And you know, in the future, if I see that, I would be really excited. For Team 3 specifically, like Ben asked, I really liked the fact that your solution was extremely relevant. Obviously, like being sustainable and being this dry eraser problem is something that I faced too, and it would be really nice if I could just pull one out of my back pocket that was never dry. That would be great. I wish that there had been more like focus on maybe like how much it would cost and an implementation, but you kind of made up for that in regards, you know, to the actual sustainability aspect and like the actual like the spring design, which I really liked. For Team 4, excellent rendering. I really enjoyed watching your passion for the presentation, which was really, really nice. In terms of like actually manufacturing it, I wish that it had been more of like a re-engineering as opposed to like an improvement on the design. For the suspension system, super exciting. I loved your entire presentation. I thought the idea was excellent, but some of the things brought up by my fellow judges were like very relevant in terms of like safety, in terms of actual implementation of the product. And then finally with the iCart, like for Team 6, I love that concept so much. It feels very like the Jetsons, which is like a cartoon from the early 2000s, not to age myself, but I was really excited to see that. However, like obviously with like props on the innovation, maybe the implementation could have been a little bit improved. So obviously there's a lot of things to consider, but I'm feeling pretty confident in the lineup that we have for podium places. But that being said, like you should all give yourselves like a huge round of applause, because I think it was a really good output from this competition.
Agreed. Did you want to add anything else from Kevin's side?
In general, well done, everybody. A lot of the designs were like really well thought out and quite interesting. For Team 3, I really liked the marker design quite a bit. Would have liked to see more of like the engineering design process. So like having multiple prototypes, but from a technical standpoint for like feasibility and from marketability and everything, it was really well done. For Team 4, I really like enjoyed your multi-tool. Like the rendering was really well done. Like it's a fantastic model. And I think that like the problems it solves regarding safety are quite relevant. As someone who owns a multi-tool Snap-on in particular, I kind of feel like worried whenever I pull out the knife because I don't know if it will slip from sweaty hands or anything like that. So I did like that. I would have wished it was more innovative because like you just made minor improvements, but it's hard to improve perfection in the case of a multi-tool. For Team 5, I really did like your car design. It was really interesting, really innovative, like quite different. And I think that if you'd like move on to pursue like a master's degree, like working on this as a project, that'd be enough for a thesis, almost certainly. I just had some issues with the technical feasibility of the design and would have liked some more hard numbers for what you were proposing, and also the marketability. And then for Team 6, I really did like the iCart. I just think that Like it was really well modeled. It looked good, and I like the idea from like an accessibility standpoint for the elderly. I just think that the cost would be quite prohibitive for any company to like accept this for production, and even then, I don't think it would be something that stores would purchase. But it's definitely something that you could go and improve on for later designs. I think that's all I have to add here.
Do you guys have any other feedback that you want to give to the team? Oh, very good. Okay, so we're just gonna start announcing the winners. So third place is team number 5, which is the suspension design, and then second place. I don't know if I should be doing like a drum roll or something. Second place is the marker, so team number 3. And drum roll, first place is the multi-tool, the team number 4.
Congratulations, everyone.
Yeah, in terms of the prizes, if you guys didn't already see on the poster, the first place is 250, second place is 150, and third place is 100. And I will be reaching out to you through email for that, just because it has to go through the more professional channels, so can't just hand it out right now. But I will be contacting all the winners with their prizes soon. And good job, everyone. Those are some amazing designs. I really enjoyed watching you guys present, and I hope you guys continue to join other competitions and all of those, because you guys are all very bright students. Other than that, I just want to personally thank the judges for taking the time out of their day to come join and give their input. And that was some like amazing feedback when I was listening to you guys. It was really cool listening to people that have like a lot of experience with like different technical aspects, and you guys giving your feedback was really amazing. But thank you for joining us. And we are recording this, so I will see if I can get the recording and kind of put it on our socials as well. But other than that, that concludes our competition for today. I will be